morning from Terminal 1 at Toronto-Pearson. My name is Alex, and today's flight is a bit of a new experience for me. Being from Alberta, I don't usually see any more of Terminal 1 other than the domestic gates here, or the interminable walk over to the international side. Today though, I'm here to catch a regional flight within Ontario for once, heading north to Timmins with Air Canada Express's -8 400. Timmins, Ontario is a city of just over 40,000 people, located around 550 kilometers north of Toronto. The main industries there are mining and forestry, and the city also serves as a regional hub for northeastern Ontario. This was filmed back in January of this year, and I needed to get to Timmins for a very specific reason, to fly on the very last classic -8 flight with Air Canada Express, from there back to Toronto. It's a little out of the way for me from home in Calgary, but although it was a sad occasion, as aircraft retirements often are, I'm very glad I was there. Obviously though, I had to get to Timmins first, and short domestic flights within Ontario leave from these ground loading gates in Terminal 1, where you'll find plenty of -8s and C-GJZAs. It can get a bit crowded whenever they have multiple flights though, especially if they're all leaving within a couple minutes of each other. Our plane to Timmins isn't exactly visible from here, but we'll be riding on this de Havilland Canada -8 400, a fairly new 2016 build registered as Charlie Golf Juliet Zulu Alpha. After a slight delay due to a late inbound arrival, it was time to leave the relative comfort of Terminal 1 and head outside to, well, January in Ontario. My seat for today is pretty far in the back, in 16A. Normally, I'd go for one of the preferred seats at the front for extra legroom, but decided to give a normal seat a try since this isn't too long a flight. It doesn't look great, but the saving grace here, unlike some other -8 seats, is that ACs are decently padded, especially when it comes to my knees and the seat in front. Before we head off to Timmins, I'd like to give a special thank you to my channel members for helping to make very out-of-the-way trips like this possible. If you'd like to support my work here on YouTube, you can click the join button down below to find out more. Here's our departure from Toronto, off of runway 06 left.
Demonstration outlines the procedures of this aircraft. At this time, headsets connected to a portable and fastened. Aisles and exits need to be clear, and baggage, including purses and larger electronic devices, such as laptop computers, must be safely stowed.
After that awesome bank over the airport on departure, let's take a look around the cabin. The seats on Air Canada Express's -8 400s are all fairly standard and have this tray table which sits just a bit low. In the seat back pocket, which is decently roomy, you'll find the usual air sickness bag and the safety card. During boarding, the crew also handed out the usual clean care package, which came with an extra mask, wipes, and hand sanitizer. Interestingly, these seats all have a coat hook on them too. That's a unique touch I wouldn't have expected on a Dash 8, but it makes perfect sense on a day like today. One thing I've always found odd on airliners, no matter what type, is that window armrest and economy are fixed. On a completely full flight like this one, I really wish they moved just for an extra inch or two of space. One very Dash 8 specific thing that I love are the logos on the buckles, although you don't see these as much on the newer 400s. Air Canada Express's Dash 8 400 seats 78 passengers in an all-economy layout. Unlike the earlier classic Dashes, the 400s have two larger exit doors at the very back of the plane, and so these don't have any exit rows halfway down like the smaller ones did. I was always a fan of those rows on AC's 100s and 300s since they had about 3 to 4 more inches of legroom. Flying from Toronto to Timmins takes just over an hour, which meant there was enough time for a short snack and drink service. I had a bottle of water and some Air Canada pretzels. For the rest of the flight, the views below were pretty spectacular, with some beautiful views of freshly snow-covered forest, as well as the city of Sudbury and Sudbury Airport. Now, while I was in Timmins, naturally I had to do some plane spotting, and wanting to fly on the final classic Dash 8 flight as well, my good friend Mark also came along. We actually spent 2 nights there, and wanted to come here a bit before that flight in order to hopefully catch Air Quebec's Hawker Siddeley HS748 flying. The HS748 is a pretty rare British type that you can only find in rural Ontario these days, and while planning this trip, we found that Air Quebec just so happened to have one based in Timmins. Unfortunately, we kinda rolled the dice and lost, since it didn't end up flying at all while we were there. We did manage to see and very much hear it doing an engine run though, and so seeing that, along with some uniquely rural Ontario traffic, made for a pretty nice trip, at least for us. I could have done without the minus 30 temperatures, but that's what I get for going to Northern Ontario in January. I imagine normal people would have gone, I don't know, someplace warm maybe, but where's the fun in that? Eventually, we were on the descent into Timmins, and here's our arrival onto a snowy Runway 03. So that was Air Canada Express on an intra-Ontario flight. Overall, it was a decent experience. The snacks and drinks were appreciated, and it turned out we made up some time in the air for an on-time arrival. Obviously, the seats are nothing to write home about, and may be a bit older by other carrier standards, but the extra padding was very welcome. So yeah, a pretty standard travel experience as far as Canadian regional flights go. Flying out of a ramp boarding gate in Toronto was kinda cool though, and really highlights why dressing warm is important when flying in Canadian winters. It was also kinda neat sitting in the back of a Q400 for once, and if a flight is empty and, maybe more importantly, short enough, I'd sit here again. Thank you so much for watching this trip to Timmins, and I'll see you next time.